Picture the scene for a moment. You have Lewis Hamilton, arguably the greatest driver to ever sit in a Formula One cockpit, standing in the middle of the Ferrari garage after a year that should have forced him into retirement. By any statistical measure, 2025 was a total catastrophe for him. For the first time in a legendary 19-year career, the man who redefined what it means to dominate a sport didn't stand on a single podium. He didn't just lose to his teammate, Charles Leclerc. He was systematically dismantled, losing the qualifying battle 19-5. It was a season he himself described as a nightmare, a grueling stretch of 24 weekends where the magic seemed to have finally run out. Yet, as the dust settles on the worst statistical performance of his life, Hamilton isn't sounding the alarm or looking for an exit strategy. Instead, he is making a claim that has the entire paddock talking. He says he can feel a winning mentality inside Ferrari that is stronger than ever before. On the surface, it sounds like classic media training, the kind of optimistic fluff a driver says when they're trying to justify a career move that looks like a massive mistake on paper. Most people would assume he's just trying to keep his chin up or satisfy the intense Italian media. But when you start to peel back the layers of what actually happened behind the closed doors of Maranello over the last 12 months, a much more calculated and slightly shocking story begins to emerge. It turns out that Ferrari's dismal 2025 season might not have been a failure of talent or engineering, but a cold, hard strategic choice. Either something genuinely shifted inside that factory over the winter, or Lewis Hamilton is doing a world-class job of fooling himself. To understand which one it is, you have to look past the results on the screen and focus on the things the casual fans missed. A complete technical rebuild, a massive influx of championship-winning engineers from Hamilton's old home at Mercedes, and a specific regulatory loophole that gave Ferrari a head start while everyone else was distracted. To really grasp why Hamilton is so confident, you have to realize that Ferrari's collapse in 2025 wasn't some embarrassing accident. It was actually a deliberate high-stakes strategy. Most fans saw the red cars falling further and further behind the leaders as the months went by, but the truth is that the team principal, Vasseur, had already made a cutthroat decision before the season even really got moving. Just 4 races into the 2025 championship, Vasseur officially pulled the plug on the development of the SF25. He realized that trying to fix a mediocre car while the massive 2026 regulation changes were looming was a losing game. Instead of wasting money and man-hours on a season that was already slipping away, he made the call to redirect every single available resource toward the 2026 car. This move effectively meant that Ferrari abandoned their current car in April, leaving their drivers to finish the remaining 8 months of the calendar in a machine that was essentially frozen in time. Think about what that actually felt like from inside the cockpit for someone like Lewis Hamilton. He was out there every Sunday, wrestling with a car that felt difficult and unpredictable, knowing full well that not a single engineer back at the factory was trying to make it faster. While rivals like McLaren and Red Bull were bringing new parts to almost every race, Ferrari's updates had completely dried up. Vasseur later admitted that he underestimated the psychological toll this took on the team. It's incredibly demoralizing to show up to work knowing you've already conceded the fight, and that internal frustration is exactly why the results looked so ugly on paper. By the end of the year, Hamilton took the brunt of this damage, finishing with a career-low 156 points. But while the world was laughing, Ferrari was essentially bankrolling a massive head start for the future. But the plan wasn't just about stopping work on an old car, it was about completely rebuilding the team from the inside out. Vasseur didn't just inherit a legendary name, he inherited a technical structure that had spent years falling short of its potential. To fix that, he began a quiet but massive campaign to poach the most successful minds in the business, specifically targeting the team Lewis Hamilton knew best, Mercedes. This wasn't just about adding new faces, it was a systematic dismantling of the old guard to make room for what fans are calling Maranello 2.0. Vasseur was hunting for championship-winning DNA, and he found it in Loïc Serra. Serra spent 14 years at Mercedes, serving as their performance director during the most dominant era in the sport's history. He was there for every single one of those 8 consecutive world titles. He didn't just help design fast cars. He understood exactly how to make the suspension, tyres, and aerodynamics work together in a way that rivals couldn't touch. Following Serra from Mercedes was Jérôme D'Ambrosio, another figure Hamilton knows well. D'Ambrosio moved from being the driver development director at Mercedes to become Ferrari's new deputy team principal. This change is crucial because it shifts the leadership dynamic at the track. While Vasseur handles the big picture strategy, D'Ambrosio brings a modern, driver-focused perspective to the garage, ensuring the team stays sharp during high-pressure race weekends. These hires weren't just about filling empty seats, they were about importing a proven culture of winning. When Hamilton talks about feeling a new energy at Ferrari, he isn't just being polite. He's looking at the same people who helped him win 6 of his 7 world titles, now wearing red shirts, and building him a car based on the same philosophy that made him the greatest in the world. When you look at the physical car itself, the changes are even more dramatic. The SF26 is a complete departure from anything Ferrari has built in the modern era, starting with a move to pushrod suspension at both the front and the rear for the first time in over a decade. This isn't just a mechanical change, it's an aerodynamic one. By clearing the suspension clutter, Ferrari has opened up new channels for airflow under the car, which is vital for the 2026 regulations that rely heavily on ground effect efficiency. They've also introduced what experts call an extreme multi-link configuration. This allows the team to fine-tune the car's anti-dive and anti-squat characteristics, ensuring the platform remains perfectly level under heavy braking or acceleration. In simple terms, it makes the car a much more stable weapon for the driver to lean on. This new hardware is backed by a massive leap in development technology. During the 2024 factory shutdown, Ferrari's engineers completely overhauled their wind tunnel in Maranello. They replaced the old metallic floor with an innovative rubber-like material that acts much more like a real racetrack, allowing them to study how tyres interact with the air in far more detail. Furthermore, their new simulator, built with Dynisma, is now the fastest in the world, operating with about 1/8 the delay of older systems. This allows Hamilton to provide feedback that is instantly reflected in the car's digital model. This technical arms race is supported by a significant boost in manpower, with Ferrari's workforce growing by nearly 9% to over 5,400 employees. This isn't a team trying to catch up, it's a team that has spent 2 years building a powerhouse specifically for the 2026 reset. The unfair advantage Ferrari holds comes from a specific rule that rewards their 2025 failure, the Aerodynamic Testing Restrictions. Because Ferrari finished 4th in the championship, they've been granted 1,020 hours of wind tunnel time for the first half of 2026. Compare that to the 840 hours granted to McLaren. That 180-hour gap translates to 48 extra physical test runs and over 300 additional computer evaluations. But the kicker is that Ferrari started using this advantage early. While McLaren and Red Bull were exhausting their staff fighting for the 2025 title, Ferrari's team was already quietly running hundreds of simulations for the 2026 car. It's the ultimate tortoise and the hare scenario. While the leaders were sprinting to the finish line of the old era, Ferrari was already halfway down the track of the new one. However, even with the best tools, Ferrari has to face the weight of its own history. As we head into 2026, it has been over 6,200 days since Ferrari last hoisted a Constructors' Championship trophy. 17 years have passed since Kimi Raikkonen's 2007 title. Since then, Ferrari has been defined by near misses and what Jenson Button called a culture of fear. When people are afraid of being sacked for a mistake, they stop taking the risks needed to win championships. Fred Vasseur's internal purge was designed to break this cycle, creating a stable environment where engineers can finally breathe. This included making the uncomfortable call to reassign race engineer Riccardo Adami to the driver academy. After a year of escalating on-radio friction with Hamilton, Vasseur chose to prioritize team harmony over tradition, ensuring Hamilton has a fresh, aligned voice in his ear for the most important season of his life. The first real proof of this transformation came during the January 2026 shakedown in Barcelona. On paper, it was a dream debut, with Hamilton topping the charts with a 1-minute 16.348. While paddock whispers suggested the car was still a handful on track, Hamilton seemed genuinely invigorated by the challenge. He noted that the team's reliability was miles ahead of where they were 12 months ago, completing over 2,000 kilometers of data gathering without a major mechanical failure. This is the foundation of Hamilton's confidence. He isn't betting on the car being perfect on day one, he's betting on the fact that the organisation behind him finally has the endurance and the leadership to turn a fast car into a world-beating one. Ultimately, 2026 is the ultimate test of whether a culture can be rebuilt. Ferrari has the Mercedes engineers, they have the upgraded wind tunnel, they have the extra testing hours, and they have the most successful driver in history. But they also have 6,200 days of history watching them. If this winning mentality is real, it will have to survive the immense pressure of the first race in Australia. Hamilton has made his move and showed his hand. Now, the world is waiting to see if Maranello can finally turn nearly 2 decades of waiting into a new era of dominance.